Hello there, and welcome to Michael Mania, a very creative name if I do say so myself. I spent all of 3 minutes on it. And I know what you're thinking, wrestling, there just isn't enough content on YouTube covering wrestling. There's a huge gap, and I'm here to fill it. Thank God, we need another random person's opinion on things. So that's why I'm here. I do YouTube content over on another channel called The Tribe of Nerds, where we cover things like Survivor and Lost. And one thing we don't do on that channel is wrestling, and wrestling is a huge passion of mine and has been for many years. So I thought, screw it, we're in the run up to WrestleMania, and I want to start my own thoughts on this. So I'm going to do a series called My Wrestling Life, and episode by episode, I'll go through a wrestler who has impacted my life as a wrestling fan. And since this is episode one, I'll go with the one that has the most impact on my life, and that is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. So I started watching wrestling in 2000. Shawn Michaels was not around in 2000, as I'm sure you know. This was during the injury hiatus where Shawn's career was essentially over and we didn't know whether he was coming back. I watched the Royal Rumble 2000. That was my first pay-per-view, and I fell in love with pro wrestling, specifically The Rock. This was also a weird time to start watching wrestling because Stone Cold wasn't around, so I never really had any major attachment to Stone Cold during this time. This was the run up to WrestleMania 2000 when Stone Cold was away. So The Rock was my guy. I liked Triple H, and I kind of just fell in love with the business from there. And then I watched for a couple of years, and the big defining moment of my wrestling fandom was when all of a sudden this new guy, as far as I was concerned, turned up called Shawn Michaels. I had no idea who he was. He hadn't been on screen. I didn't know anything about him, his injury, the history. But all of a sudden, this energetic guy came bouncing out. And from there, I was like, this is my guy. There was just something about him. And Shawn was my guy from that point on. I was 12 years old. And Shawn's initial comeback, the whole thing was, could Shawn still go? And I didn't know if he could go at all. So the whole feud with Triple H turning on him, leading to a match at SummerSlam. A weird blind spot in my mind. I remember Royal Rumble 2000 because it was my first. And then for some reason, I jumped to like 2002. I remember some of the invasion stuff and Shawn's match with Triple H. I remember, I wish I could get back that feeling as a kid when you are legitimately scared for somebody in the ring. You are concerned that this is as real as it gets. And everyone has been telling me, Shawn is hurt. Shawn can't wrestle. His back could snap at a second's notice. And he gets in there, this street fight with Triple H. And they have this incredible match. And the headline is that, hey, Shawn can still go. Good news. And then we get to the moment where I was so fully behind Shawn Michaels when he came back around Survivor Series time. I think there was something with the NWO in there, which I don't think anyone really talks about because it was a bit silly. But he ends up in the world title picture at Survivor Series 2002, the very first Elimination Chamber. And being a wrestling fan around this time, like in school, I remember the talk about Elimination Chamber, people being so excited about it and so confused by what it was. We couldn't picture what the Elimination Chamber looks like or what it is. And again, that feeling of fear. I was scared about these people going into this barbaric structure, and I thought somebody's going to die. And I remember waking up and going to school on the Monday after the pay-per-view. This is back before we have all this, social media and content on YouTube where wrestling results are spoiled immediately after they happen. And going through that whole day at school with no idea what happened, no idea who won. None of the kids in school knew because we were all too young to stay up and watch it. And were you just talking about the Elimination Chamber? What was it going to be like? Who do you think won? And me being so desperate for Shawn Michaels to win, but not thinking he would, because he's just come back. He barely scraped through a match at SummerSlam. There's no way he's going to become world champion at this time. And I get home and I watch the Elimination Chamber, and I remember the build up to that match being amazing. What was the song? It's probably Limp Bizkit or Creed. It's around that time. But the song that led up to the that Elimination Chamber, the video package at the beginning. That's gonna bug me. What was it? I could Google it. Hold tight. Always by Saliva. Wasn't Limp Bizkit, wasn't Creed, but it was one of them. Yeah, so that song leading into the pay-per-view and Eric Bischoff coming out with a steel pipe and smacking the structure and it just being huge. And then Shawn comes out with his iconic, I guess, in that everyone hates it, little Bob and his brown pants. And the match is incredible. We have Rob Van Dam almost killing Triple H by landing on his neck from a 5-star frog splash. And the amazing end sequence where Triple H gets backdropped out of the pedigree into the super kick, 1, 2, 3. And Shawn Michaels in 2002, after a career-ending injury, comes back and he is the world champion again. And this was like peak excitement for me as a wrestling fan. And I learned my first hard lesson as a wrestling fan, which was never be happy. Because when you're happy in pro wrestling, you get punched in the face for it. And then from there, Triple H immediately beats Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels just never beats Triple H back. He just loses every single time. And the frustration and the hatred that I felt for Triple H means that Shawn did a pretty good job as a babyface, trying to get Triple H as the heel to be despised, and Triple H did a great job of making people hate him. But as a kid, I just didn't care about that. I didn't know about that. I just hated this guy who kept beating Shawn Michaels. And jumping ahead to another key memory is WrestleMania 20, where everyone's behind Chris Benoit, name redacted, we'll not go into that. And everyone wants Triple H to lose, but for me, it was just Shawn Michaels. This is it. After all the shit that Shawn has been put through by Triple H over the years, I don't care if they're best friends. I don't care if they're a tag team. He has made his life hell since he came back. And this is Shawn's chance. This is when Shawn will finally become the champion again. And he doesn't do it. And that's kind of a running theme of Shawn Michaels' second career in WWE, because he never really wins anything. He'll win the odd match, but he never wins anything substantial. And that was so annoying to me as a fan who was obsessed with this Shawn Michaels guy. And he just never bloody wins. But I think that's part of the beauty of how good Shawn Michaels is, where he's kind of the ultimate underdog babyface, where every match he's in, he's getting the absolute ever-loving shit kicked out of him for 90% of the match. But you just want that comeback. And he's so good at making you care. And I really cared about Shawn Michaels. And after the WrestleMania 20 loss, we then move into jumping ahead through the broad strokes of his career, this incredible feud with Kurt Angle. We have Kurt Angle doing the iconic I'm just a sexy Kurt. Marty Jannetty still can't walk. And leading to that match at WrestleMania. And one of the greatest matches of all time. I remember watching that match live. Again, always rooting for Shawn Michaels. There has never been a match in my career as a wrestling fan. Career? That was a weird thing to say. In my life as a wrestling fan, where I've rooted against Shawn Michaels. Even when we jump ahead to 2005, when we're meant to not like him. And that match with Kurt Angle, where Kurt's just an absolute beast, maybe like peak psychotic Kurt Angle, like just so intense. I mean, intensity's part of his thing, but that when he gets him in the ankle lock and he holds him in that ankle lock for what felt like about 10 minutes of Shawn desperately going everywhere trying to get to the ropes, and he just can't get away. And like an anaconda, Kurt just locks him in and beats him at WrestleMania. We then get into some weird stuff with Mr. McMahon, and around this time I was kind of falling off with wrestling. I wasn't as into as I used to be. I would still watch for Shawn. I started really liking people like Edge, but it just wasn't doing it for me. And the key reason for that was one man, and his name was John Cena. John Cena's a hot button issue right now because he's in his final run and he's deciding to do it as a bad guy for the first time ever, really. He has been a heel, but it wasn't the John Cena that we know now. And back then, I hated John Cena. I was so sick of John Cena. And we get to Shawn Michaels versus John Cena at WrestleMania 23, where once again, this is it. Shawn is going to beat John Cena. He's going to become the champion, and he's going to have a run. 2025 wrestling eyes, however long I've been watching, it's pretty obvious what that match was. It was obvious Shawn Michaels was never going to win because he was like 40 years old and John Cena was the face of the company. His job there was to put John over and make John look like a credible ultimate good guy. And that was the first time, again, Shawn gets a lot of credit from a lot of people for being, one of the most important wrestlers to ever do it. But his amazing match with John Cena on Monday Night Raw in London, where they went for like just under an hour, I think it was like 50 minutes or something. It was just this incredible back and forth. And that was the first time I remember watching and being like, damn, like John Cena's not bad. Everyone says he's bad, but he's kind of good. I feel bad saying it, but he's kind of good. Damn it. I liked it when I hated him. But that match with Shawn was another stepping stone in getting John Cena to become the John Cena that everyone knows and loves today and now hates. We then get to one of the greatest stories in my time watching professional wrestling, where Ric Flair, Old Yeller, decides, this is it. I'm going to keep wrestling. I'm going to wrestle forever. I'm never going to retire. And Mr. McMahon comes out and says, as long as you keep winning, the next match you lose, you're done. And, sometimes life imitates art, because he really did just keep wrestling forever. And I would not be surprised if the last match ever that he did is not, in fact, the last match ever. But this was the perfect end for Ric Flair in WWE. And he has this incredible match with Shawn Michaels, where Shawn is the Ric Flair fan that does not want to be the guy, does not want to be the guy that ends Ric Flair's career on the grandest stage of them all. But Ric pushes him into it, and he pushes him and pushes him. And Shawn ultimately has to do what he has to do. And he says, I'm sorry, I love you. Kicks Ric Flair in the head. Ric's sobbing on the mat before the 3 count has even been registered. If there was anyone thinking maybe Ric's going to kick out, all you had to do was look at his sobbing face. But Ric Flair cries almost as much as he bleeds, so it's not too shocking, really. And then coming out of this match, we got into like some of the most interesting feuds of Shawn Michaels' career for me, where the act of retiring Ric Flair really had long-term effects in the WWE story. We had Jericho being pissed at Michaels. We had Batista being pissed with Michaels. And, all of this leading to this incredible feud between Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels, where they had wrestled back at WrestleMania 19, his first WrestleMania back during this second run. But from then, Jericho had changed a lot since then. Shawn had still been, the Shawn that we'd known for a long time, but Jericho was now on a level similar to Shawn at that point. So having Jericho and Michaels go at it in 2008, the suit wearing, kind of demeaning, kind of smug Chris Jericho that we had in 2008, leading to that incredible ladder match where Jericho gets his tooth knocked out. And I mean, that was one of the matches I go back to most often in Shawn's career. And then we get to my favorite match of all time. And it's a match that not only is amazing, but I think it's a match that watching live added so much more to it. Shawn Michaels challenges The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Streak, not versus career, just streak on the line. We'll get to that one. And I, again, was so desperate for Shawn Michaels to be the one to end the streak. And I stayed up. I think this is the first pay-per-view I remember staying up and watching live at like 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was in the UK time. Went to my friend's house and we watched it live. And riding the roller coaster of that match was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. It was unbelievable. And you don't wish harm on anyone. You want everyone to be safe. But there is something to be said about when Undertaker takes that ride over the top, doesn't get caught, looks like he lands on his head. Thankfully, he was okay. But in that moment, all your wrestling brain logic of the back and forth of things, okay, he's hit this, so he's probably not winning, he's just getting his moments here. All of that goes out the window, because now, what if Undertaker can't finish this match? What if he's really hurt? And the whole count out and him just getting back into the ring, he hits Shawn Michaels with the choke slam. Ordinarily, you wouldn't really think the choke slam's going to end this incredible match. But in this situation, having Undertaker just nearly killed himself on the outside of the ring, you totally believe, okay, he's hurt, they're just going to end it with a choke slam, get out of there. Sucks, but it is what it is. But Shawn kicks out. Undertaker gets him up for the last ride. Shawn wriggles out of it. He gets him up again and spikes him with the greatest last ride The Undertaker has ever given anyone. Shawn gets so much height and he comes crashing down and his head bounces off the mat. And again, that's it. Okay, yeah, he might usually use the tombstone, but that's such a sick last ride. That's totally the end. And Shawn kicks out. And then, the greatest moment in professional wrestling, Shawn goes over the ropes, tries to pull himself back in. He gets caught in the tombstone. Tombstone in the middle of the ring. Undertaker does everything that you would expect him to do at the end of a match. There's no sign that wrestling fans are used to picking up on that maybe this isn't the finish. Maybe there's more to do here. He does everything. He crosses the arms. He tongue out, head back, does the whole thing. And Shawn rolls over and Undertaker rolls with him. And Undertaker's head is resting on Shawn's body. And the camera just zooms into Undertaker's face. And one of the most iconic calls of JR's illustrious career, I just had an out-of-body experience. And the look on Undertaker's face is unbelievable. And I remember Shawn kicking out of that tombstone. The friend I was watching this WrestleMania with was all about The Undertaker. I was all about Shawn Michaels. He knew The Undertaker was going to win that match. But then Shawn kicked out of that tombstone and his face drained of colour. I jumped up and started running around the room screaming with excitement. Shawn could do this because now we're in uncharted territories. What's left to do? If Shawn's going to kick out of that, maybe he is going to beat the streak. And he tunes up the band and he hits The Undertaker with a sick Sweet Chin music and goes into the pin. And the air left the room when we were watching this live and Undertaker kicks out. This, if by nobody watching this won't have watched this match, but if by any chance there is someone watching this that has not seen The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, watch that match. It is the greatest match of all time. And when the Undertaker ultimately wins, everyone is on their feet. Everyone's cheering this incredible match. JR, King on commentary are saying, what a privilege it was to call that match. And at 43, 44 years old, whatever Shawn was at that time, and The Undertaker around the same age, to have a match like that at that stage in their careers, it's incredible. And that was the catalyst for Shawn Michaels to say, I think I'm done. And I think that's such a fitting way to decide when you end your career. When you have a match that perfect, where you say, it ain't going to get better than that. So we lead up to the final year of Shawn Michaels' career where they don't really do much with him. He's gone for a while. He comes back. He's like back with DX and Hornswoggle's in the mix. Weird use of Shawn's last year. But the big thing is he's going to get a rematch with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He costs The Undertaker the World Championship, and he puts his career on the line. And once again, I watched it live. And in my heart, I knew this is the end for Shawn Michaels. Just like 2 years prior when he ended Ric Flair's career, this is Shawn's big moment. And he goes down in absolute Shawn Michaels fashion, where he's beaten, battered, broken, and he climbs up the Undertaker's body. He's got nothing left. He gives him the throat slash, and he slaps the shit out of him. Defiant right till the end, and he gets planted with a jumping tombstone pile driver. And just like that, Shawn Michaels' career is over. And that is where we end this chapter of my wrestling life following Shawn Michaels, because after Shawn Michaels retired from WWE, so did I. I was done. I'd had my ups and downs watching professional wrestling, and after Shawn was gone, it just wasn't the same for me. I didn't have somebody that I could have a rooting interest in like I did with Shawn Michaels. Until I came back. In episode 2, we will be discussing the person who brought me back when he sat down on a stage in Las Vegas in a Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirt and cut the pipe bomb. The next wrestler who has impacted my life the most after Shawn Michaels is the voice of the voiceless, the Second City Saints, CM Punk. So join me for episode 2 of My Wrestling Life, where we will be discussing CM Punk. Till then, goodbye.